Okay, I am so excited to welcome today's guest to the podcast. Alice Sullivan is an amazing writer, which is how I met her. Best-selling author and editor, avid gardener, curious athlete, which you just got into curling, I'm seeing, and an adventurous traveler. She also endured a very challenging 2025. She lost her father and then later in the year lost her mother. I asked Alice to be on the podcast because I think she has an incredibly brave and powerful story to share, and it's one that I think can benefit listeners in countless ways. Perhaps most importantly, and simply just knowing that they're not alone. I do want to offer a word of caution that the topic of child sexual abuse may be mentioned, so listener discretion is advised. Alice, thank you for being on the Dying to Know More podcast. I'm so happy to see you.
Thank you. Happy to be here. This is hopefully something that'll help me and help lots of other people.
Yeah. Okay, so first off, real quick, back from a yacht trip, because like I said, Alice is a ghostwriter and visited her client on their private yacht for some final edits. That's a trip.
My physical therapist just left because I came home from that trip with like an inner ear thing, and so all good.
Work hazards, right?
Right. Isn't that the weirdest thing? Yeah. It's okay.
Okay. So as I mentioned, you had a very rough 2025, more so than I can ever imagine. Your Substacks on everything that you've been through are complete page turners, which listeners, I will include the link to Alice's Substack and website and stuff. But you definitely want to subscribe. So your writing is incredible with the most difficult topics that you've covered. I also marvel though at how you're able to pluck out moments of beauty and like lessons learned from these tough spots. So let's dig in. January, your father passed, is that right?
Insurrection Day, yes, January 6th. That's also Epiphany.
Yeah. Yes. So frame things up for listeners by telling us a bit about the dynamic between you and your father.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so he was horribly abusive all childhood, really terrible marriage situation for him and my mom. He had more political connections and ended up getting custody after the divorce, which was horrific because the abuse continued. And then, my mom was made into the villain. All that being said, he, of course, never admitted to any of the abuse, the sexual abuse, the emotional, the physical, the medical, spiritual, all things. And so I eventually went no contact. I maintained contact, even though my brother and my sister were like, absolutely not. We want nothing to do with it. But I still felt this weird, I don't know if I would say it was a guilt. Maybe it was because I was still involved with the church at that time. And I felt like, as the oldest child, you're supposed to stick with it. And anyway, so I did until I couldn't anymore. And then we went no contact. I went no contact. And for the last 5, 6, 7 years, perhaps, we didn't talk at all because I blocked his emails. I blocked everything. Mm-hmm. And so, but I always hoped that he would die. I mean, quite frankly, I had been praying, meditating, dreaming that he would die since I was a teenager because it was just, there was no escape, right? He was the meanest man on earth who had been able to accomplish terrible things and never be charged. So when I did get the message that he was being taken to the hospital, it was by a cousin that I haven't spoken to in 20-something years on that side of the family. Mm-hmm. And it, of course, brought up everything all over again because a few years before that, I guess the last time we had contact, so maybe 6 years before that, he had been sick again. He'd gone to the hospital and he lived in North Carolina. And I, as the oldest child, was still somehow next of kin. And so even though we had no relationship, the hospital contacted me and said, you need to come. We're not going to make it. He's on a ventilator. He's in the ICU. And what do? I have all of these feelings all over again. I told my brother and my sister, they're like, best of luck if you feel like you need to go. And I decided to go. I decided if this is his last, if he was going to die, I was going to do what I thought I could live with. And so I wasn't expecting an apology or anything at that point. I wanted to see what he looked like. I wanted to see how life had been unkind to him. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to prove to myself that I could finally stand up to him, even if, he's incapacitated. Like,
Yeah.
I needed that. So I packed up the car, and the next morning I was going to head out, and I called the hospital, and they said, I don't know how to tell you this, but he was able to write on a dry erase board, he does not want you here. And I thought, that son of a bitch, you're dying, and your oldest daughter, who you have ruined, was going to come. And so all over again, I was that 3-year-old, that 4-year-old, that 5-year-old, just devastated. So when I got the call this past January that he's in the hospital again, part of me was like, well, he's an asshole. He's going to make it through. Whatever. He'll come back from the dead.
Yeah.
And the other part of me was like, please, please, please kill him. Let him die.
Yeah.
And I had also just started the Substack because years and years ago, when I was still at the Christian Publishing House, I had written, I'd been asked to contribute a chapter to a book about my faith experience and my relationship with my dad, which was not great. And so I wrote this article. It was published online. I didn't realize until he commented that he was following me online. And so I vaguely wrote about the experience of childhood abuse. And a discerning reader would be able to understand what happened without me being blatant. And he sent me an email. And all it said was, do your friends know you're writing fiction? And I vowed never to write again. Like, this is my career. But I was like, I'm never writing publicly again. No, because he's watching me everywhere.
Oh, my God.
So right before he died in January, probably 1st or 2nd, I was like, screw it. Still, no contact. I just thought, I'm 45. Or maybe I just turned 40. Yeah, 45. I was 45. I was like, I can't do this the rest of my life. I can't hide. Whatever. If he's going to find me, he's going to find me. I'm going to start writing. So I started writing the Substack, not knowing that week he was going to die. So anyway, the next morning, very early, I'm, doing the thing in my head like, well, should I go visit him again? Whatever. And my cousin says, I'm sorry to tell you, he died overnight. And I was like, the best day. Shock.
Yeah.
So by that time, my mom had already been diagnosed.
Yes.
With lung cancer.
Yep.
And her goal, we are all about dark humor, and her goal was to outlive him.
And she did.
She did. Barely. She did. But, my brother and my sister, we celebrated. We had margaritas. And then the process of me having to manage his estate began not long after, which was another pain in the ass.
Yeah, so that kind of leads to, quick question. So I know you said you felt free finally that he was gone and that you celebrated. Was there any sort of grief, or was it just a complete lack of grief? Like, was it a strange kind of grief, or was there just none? Like you were fully celebrating?
That's a great question. I think if I had any whispers of grief, it wasn't about him dying. It was the fact he missed out on some really great kids. And I wish that we had had a different childhood. We deserved better, but it wasn't at all grief about him dying. It was a celebration of him dying. It was just like, man, that was some shit, and I'm glad it's over.
Yeah. And in terms of how you felt glad that he died, and I know you came from a Christian background. I don't know where you're at with that now, but is there any sort of like, I know I shouldn't be celebrating somebody's death, but this person, like, was there any internal struggle, or had you'd come to terms with that long ago?
No, I'd come to terms with it long ago. Yeah. In fact, when people were, some of my closest family and friends knew, because I'd started to talk about the abuse privately over the years. So when people found out that he died, some of them who didn't know would be like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, he was a terrible human. It's great. Yeah. And they're like, oh, well then congratulations. And I was like, yes, congratulations is in order. Yeah. And so those friends of mine who did know, they're like, hell yeah, let's celebrate. Yeah. I didn't have any guilt over that at all. Thankfully, like I still am working through my own religious stuff, but there is no, I have no qualms over feeling exactly the way I feel about that situation.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
So back to, okay, so now that he's died and it comes time for, sorry, my dog's shaking the collar. You mentioned that he was a hoarder. And so you all, had to go and clean out his property. Did you know what you were walking into?
No, not really. So, I also didn't know. I didn't know until we received first pictures from my
Okay.
cousin that he was a hoarder. Now, he had always had the tendencies when we were growing up, like there was just stacks of stuff everywhere, but it wasn't to this extent. And I will say the only reason that I agreed to move forward with managing the estate, I could have signed my rights away, right? And like the state can take it. I'm not dealing with it.
Oh, you could
But
do that? I didn't know you could do that.
yeah,
And
you
just,
can whatever. Yeah, the
okay.
state can deal with it and take it.
What made you decide not to do that?
Well, we were told that he had paid off the mortgage. And so when I
Okay.
looked up the property on Zillow and RealTracs, the property was worth $220,000. And I was like, well, that's enough to deal with and split between the three of us kids.
Yeah.
So that's why I did it. I was like, well,
Okay.
for all the debt he put us through, I will manage the estate knowing that he's got debts, I'm sure, and there will be something left over.
Okay.
And then we received the first pictures from my cousin that were like, oh, this is going to be bad, real bad. Like pizza boxes stacked to the ceiling, and I'm not even exaggerating, bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I know you said like you guys, I mean, you were like prepared for like Armageddon. I mean, like
We went in with hazmat suits.
yeah, the van, the hazmat, the bins, but the buck, I was like, damn. So, but you had seen what you were walking
We saw
into.
the pictures,
Okay. Okay.
but when you walk into it, you could smell it. Like the moment we parked the van outside, you could smell something was off.
Oh God.
And it was a retirement community, so like all the neighbors are like looking around,
Yeah.
like who were these people? Because they didn't know who we
Right.
were. We'd never been there.
Right.
So it was wild, like walking into. I will say his sister, who passed away years before, was also a hoarder, and I had been in her house, and hers was even worse, if that's hard to imagine. But like a tree had fallen on her roof, and there was a hole, and she was just living with it, and there was a wild raccoon that like lived in one of her rooms, and the door never closed, and like there was a couch somewhere in the room that I could not see because the trash was past my waist. Like it was just wild. So anyway, walking into that with my sister, my brother refused to go. He didn't want anything to do with it. But Mary and I were both intrigued and also very angry with the whole situation because, you know, we're dealing with this and juggling mom's cancer treatments, you know. But it was wild.
So did you, I bring that up because I wonder, he's obviously not the only person on this earth who hoards. And so is there anything that you learned in that experience that you could, that would have been helpful to, like if there's somebody listening who has a parent who's a hoarder, is there anything that you would recommend they could do now so that would make, you know, after they pass easier to clean up? Or is it just, it is what it is?
You know, I think there's very little that can be done on the front end other than just gathering the information of the people you will need to hire to clean it out.
Okay.
Because we went in for very specific things. We wanted to, I'm curious to see what it looks like. We had to get all the guns out. Before the cleaning crew came in, so we Republican Trump, he had guns. So had to get the guns out. He had, of the many things he hoarded, musical instruments were some of them. He had 55 violins.
Oh my God.
13 guitars, saxophone. Like there were ridiculous instruments in every room.
Yeah.
And we thought maybe those would be worth something. Hardly. But we took the instruments out and then some family jewelry, gold jewelry that I was able to sell, we took out. And I wanted to find one family photograph from like the think it's late 1800s, and I found it. Took a picture of it. I was going to take that back with me, and I was going to take his Masonic Bible and burn it. And at the end of all of that, so in the midst of us visiting the house for the first time, and he's in North Carolina, we live in Nashville, we got the call from our mom that her latest scan had come back and the cancer had metastasized. So like we were physically standing in the house in hazmat suits, looking through all of his stuff. And we get the call that before that we had been told mom had stage 2 and it was curable and she'd had surgery, and they said, we got everything. And this was the call where they said, actually we didn't, and it spread and there is no cure. So like, it was a crazy time.
It's exactly. So, which brings me to my next question. You're navigating all of the mess with your father's stuff. Your mom's sick. You get that call. You've also got your own life and job and everything. How are you literally managing keeping all the balls in the air? I mean,
I really don't know.
Autopilot or?
Yeah, my default is robot mode. And it's something I developed as a survival mechanism as a kid. I'm the high performer. I'm very task oriented. And so it's very easy, unfortunately, I'm working on it, to completely compartmentalize, zone out. So I had already like rearranged my schedule and my client calls so that I had the time blocked off. Working for myself, I did have flexibility there, but yeah, it was a whole bunch to like manage my own business, my house, the trip there, the estate stuff, mom's diagnosis. We're messaging and talking with our brother in the midst of that. I don't know how I have any hair left, to be honest. I'm not real sure.
Yeah. So talk to me about when you got that call and you realized that the cancer was, she told you the cancer's back, there's nothing left to do. Was there a sort of a sense of urgency that sort of ignited in you? Like, we've got conversations we got to have. I want to get answers to, like, talk about that.
Well, my sister and I had planned on spending the night. So she had booked an Airbnb and I had rented the van for, I think, 3 days. We were going to spend the night with the possibility of spending 2 nights because we wanted to look through all of the stuff and have time to do it. And also of the things he hoarded were all of the family photos back to the 1800s.
Okay.
Thousands of family photos. And we thought like, well, that might be, black and whites of people. Some people I knew, some people I had no idea, but like, isn't that interesting to have? We get that call. I start to have a panic attack. I'm in the hazmat suit. By the way, there's no electricity in the place and it is at least 92 degrees. Yeah. So I'm sweating. I'm hyperventilating in the hazmat. I run outside onto the front porch. My sister's following behind me to make sure I do not pass out. I break down, start crying on the patio, and one of his neighbors comes up right then, Tony, and thinks that I'm crying because I'm sad about my dad. And I did not have the words, so I didn't correct him. He starts talking to my sister and like, well, if you need any help, I'll come in and I'll move stuff. I'm big and dumb, you just call me. And I wanted to hit him with the baseball bat because we had brought baseball bats because we wanted to demolish what we could. It was all going to be thrown away. Let's exact some revenge. But in that moment, we get the call and my sister and I said, like, we can't stay. We have to immediately turn around and drive home 4 hours again. Yeah. Because he does not deserve any more of our time. And so we decided then and there, like, everything that we didn't get out of the house, we got most of the guns, we got some of the instruments, and we found some of the jewelry. And we just said, whatever's left, I'll deal with it later. We have to leave right now. But we had the baseball bats in the van, which seems ominous, and it is, and I don't care. Because now I own this property. Yeah. And so we, start putting the big Tupperware bins full of, the things that we did get, the guns and whatnot, into the van. And I think I grabbed the baseball bat and my sister said, are we actually going to do this? And I said, fuck yes, we are. And so we went back into the house and we tore all of his Masonic shit off the wall. My sister found a picture of him as a kid, glass framed, put it on his bed and beat the shit out of it. There was glass everywhere. We like picked up pictures and swung at it like it was softball. Glass shards everywhere. Screamed, broke stuff. We didn't break any windows because we thought maybe the house could be salvageable. It turns out there was black mold everywhere and it just had to be torn down. But we only broke pictures, basically.
Yeah.
But
was that cathartic for you?
It was very cathartic. Screaming. I don't know how they didn't call the cops, because I know the neighbors were all like, who are these people? We're screaming and beating shit and glass is flying. And then we left the bats there. Like, I own the house and I have the key. We lock it up and we drive back 4 hours home to be with Mom. Same day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you had, are you thankful that you had that kind of heads up so that you knew that you had limited time and you could, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm glad she called. She, one thing that she did, and I know she did it to protect us, but when she was diagnosed, I was in Italy on my birthday trip. And so she told my sister, but said, don't tell anybody else, especially don't tell Alice because she's on her birthday trip. But I guess Mary called me. Oh no, she must have told our brother. And she wasn't supposed to, but like, why would you keep a secret like that? So she told our brother, and he called me while I was in Italy. And when my brother calls me when I'm overseas, I know, like, you better pick it up. Yeah. So on the porch of this fantastic restaurant overlooking the Amalfi Coast, I get this phone call from my brother. And I was with 3 friends. And I like walk off to the side and we talk for like 30 minutes. And I, robot mode, come back to the table. Oh, is everything okay? Oh yeah, he just wanted me to tell me about his story. I did not tell my friends at all.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do with that knowledge. Yeah. So all that to say, I'm glad that she called us that day with that news, because she had a tendency of, keeping it. But I also think at that point, my sister and I had the Vandy app on our phone, and we would have seen the results if she didn't.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So I'm glad she did tell us, and we drove back, of course, that night. And my sister and I ended up going back to his property several weeks later to get the rest of the guns. And then I had to hire somebody. I paid $17,000 for a cleaning crew because we thought maybe it could be salvaged. So the junk crew that had to just take everything out and put it in the big.
And then in the end, it had to be torn down anyway?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But I don't know that we would have. I don't know that we would have even gotten the sale if we hadn't done the work we did, so that it was even walk-throughable.
Gotcha.
So I want to mention he did have a lot of debt and the house was not paid off. So there was very little to split at the end of that.
So how does that work? Like, if he had debt, are you on the hook for that?
Well, I have to use the funds from the house. We had to use funds from the house to pay off his debt. So first we had to pay off the reverse mortgage. He had a reverse mortgage. So he still owed $47,000 or $49,000 on the house. And then he had $13,000 in credit card bills. At the end of it, I think we had $30,000 to split between the 3 of us, which is not nothing.
Right.
But for what it took,
I
would have given it to the state had I known.
So we were texting the other day and you mentioned that the fact that you're now the oldest of the family feels strange. Describe what you mean by that.
So I have, Mom still has a sister, her younger sister and her younger brother. Her older sister, Alice, had passed away the year before she did, same lung cancer.
Oh, really?
I was named after, so that's that. But yes, and so it's just me and my sister and my brother now. None of us have families of our own. We've not married or had kids. And it's an interesting realization to go, okay, now I'm 46 and I'm the oldest. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like? And I'm actually, I'm in grief counseling. Part of what I'm talking through is like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Because I thought by now I would be married and I would have a family of my own, but I'm not. And so what do I do?
Yeah.
My brother and my sister are grown adults. They're 42. They're twins, and they have their own lives. And, the sense of responsibility that I have always felt from childhood, both as the oldest kid, but also due to the trauma, I don't need to be responsible for them anymore in the way that I guess I have felt I needed to be, which means I'm only responsible for myself in the whole world. I'm no longer responsible for mom and her medical care, and um, it's just me. And and that feels very lonely. It feels very lonely.
Yeah.
And also, let's say I live another 50 something years, which I hope is true, but if I never get married and never, probably not going to have kids, but like if there's if I never have a family of my own, I went through this phase right pretty soon after she died of like, what's the point? Why am I here?
Yeah.
Like the most important person in my life is now gone. I feel like I'm rudderless. I have no direction. Do I really want to bust my ass for another 20 years as a professional writer to make as much money as I can, to leave a nice inheritance to my brother and my sister when I die, and then have strangers go through my house, touch all my shit, and go, wow, she did some cool stuff, and then go have lunch at McDonald's and I'm never thought of again? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
What is the point?
Yeah.
And I don't really know that I have answers yet, except I no longer feel that low, which is good. I got pretty low.
Yeah.
And I feel I've been crying a lot, of course, like every day I cry a little bit, or sometimes I cry a lot, but I don't feel that I'm not suicidal.
Yeah. Describe, if you would, the you've experienced true grief, obviously, with your mom's passing. Like you said, she was the most important person in your life, um, versus the complete opposite, which was no grief for the person you liked least in this world.
Yeah.
Um, was that had you experienced grief prior to your mom's passing, and with the loss of somebody else, or was this the first time you've experienced that sort of sadness?
It was definitely the first of that level of sadness, because when her sister died the year before, she had moved. She got married when she was 18 and moved to Florida. And so over my whole lifetime, I've only seen her maybe 6 times.
Mm-hmm.
And mom's family, they're more stoic, and so they're not like, they don't get on calls and talk and keep up and whatnot. So, and they all got along. They
Mm-hmm.
just didn't have, maybe they didn't have that example growing up. They weren't super close. And
Yeah.
so when my Aunt Alice died, I stayed here to watch the pets, and my sister took my mom to Florida to be with her. And that was certainly sad. And I had this weird like astral projection moment. I was actually getting acupuncture when my Aunt Alice passed in Florida, and she physically walked into the room that I was in, dressed in her normal clothes, and we had a conversation. It's the weirdest thing. What do you do with that? I don't know. We had a conversation, and she said, "Hey, I've got to head on. I just wanted to say bye."
Oh my God.
And so when I sat up from the acupuncture and I looked at my phone, my mom texted, she just passed. And it was the exact, it's just 2 minutes before. So that was weird. But that was like, the grief I had for her was like, it's really sad that she passed. But the grief was like, I wish I had known her better. I was named after
Yeah.
her. I
Yeah.
wish that whole family were closer.
Mm-hmm.
And both of mom's parents died when I was 6 and 8. So they were fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't get to spend a lot of time with them. And then even my dad's parents were fantastic grandparents. I don't know what the fuck happened to him, but they were great grandparents, and they both died in my 20s. And so when mom died, apart from her sister Alice, it was the first death in the family in 20 something years, or
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
So it was catastrophic, really.
Yeah. So if someone listening is in the middle of a year like the one you just had, what do they need to hear right now?
You can get through it even when you don't want to. It was important for me, even though I did not want to be vulnerable with my friends. Like everybody knew I was devastated. And so, let people know what's going on, text people back to let them know that you are alive and that you're doing okay. Allow people to show up for you. I had so many people sending flowers and plants and gift cards for food because they knew I wasn't going to eat, and groceries like casseroles. Let people do that. And that's a wave. Like that will happen in the first month. And then after that, there will be other people who show up in different ways, like continuing to check on you and, saying like, can we meet for coffee? When the immediate need, the immediate grief has mellowed out for most people, you'll still need people to check in on you and remind you, like, have you showered this week? Have you had water today? Like,
yeah,
I just, there were days that I totally shut down, and I still was working. The day she died, I was sending out work emails because I didn't know what else to do.
yeah.
So you will get through it. You can get through it, even if it feels uncomfortable. Let people help, and know that it's okay to completely lose your shit and fall apart and be grubby for a week or two, and you're surviving. Surviving will look like whatever it needs to look like so that you wake up the next day.
Okay. Is there anything you want to say or add or feel the need to get off your chest or anything like that?
Dark humor helps. It helps me. I appreciate that a lot. And so, especially with like my mom, we loved Monty Python.
Yeah.
We grew up with that. And so just silly kinds of humor. So something that I have done when I've really been sad, I'll journal a lot, and then I'll find like just either the raunchiest comedians or like whoever online, and I'll just watch like 30 minutes and laugh at all the uncomfortable stuff and the stuff that like I cannot forward this to any of my friends because they will think I'm insane. But kind of like mom would have liked it. She would have laughed her ass off,
Yeah.
She loved Dave Chappelle and Robin Williams and, anybody who said uncomfortable truths. And so for me, humor has been a big connection to her. And so I guess, I'm always looking for her. Every day I'm always looking for her. And sometimes that's in like the numbers I see on my clock that mean something to me, or her favorite bird that I'll see in my yard, or a song that she liked, or whatever it is, her favorite color. I think it's okay to look for them to show up for you in whatever ways make sense.
Mm-hmm.
That has brought me some comfort.
Yeah.
Also, tequila and chocolate.
What else do you need? Well, I am certain that your honesty about everything that you've gone through is a benefit to others, both my listeners, your readers, all of that. So thank you for that. I'm personally thrilled that your 2025 is behind you, because I think
yuck,
you deserve happiness in the days ahead.
I really do. Yeah, for the rest of my life would be nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for your time. And listeners, like I said, I will put the Substack and everything else you need to follow along with Alice.
You might also have like a little disclaimer that says frequent weeping.
Okay. You're allowed. You're allowed. Absolutely. All right. You have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much.
All righty. I'll talk to you.
Okay.
Bye. If you like this episode of Dying to Know More, be sure to give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode.